following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah! Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
Wednesday, May 27th, 2020, Season 16, Episode 11. Welcome to another edition of The Break. We are live from the virtual SWBC Mortgage Studios in our homes. I got my normal crew here, Nick Eatman, Amber Garcia, Dave Hellman, and we got a special guest today, one Todd Archer, ESPN staff writer. He's covered the Cowboys since 2003, longtime friend of the program. And Todd, we appreciate you joining us today. How's everything going?
Well, thanks for finally having me on. I really feel special.
Finally? Is it?
Yeah, I've asked Nick time and time again. He's always shot me down.
Hey, Nick, we got to talk about that.
I mean, is that like a go-to line? That's what Darren Woodson said last week as well.
Everybody's blaming Nick.
Coach Woody up.
Yeah, everybody's blaming Nick. And, of course, for those of you that don't know, Todd is also the father of Dave Hellman. So good to have you join, Dad. You know.
Hi, Dad. Yeah, there's always disappointments in life. Fair. Very fair.
Let's jump right in, Todd. I just want to start by getting your general thoughts on where the Cowboys stand now after most of free agency has been done at this point and after what most people consider to be a pretty good draft. Where do you think they stand as a team from a personnel standpoint?
You go back to when free agency started, and it happens every year when the Cowboys don't do anything, and the sky's falling, they're losing everybody. Byron Jones is gone, Quinn is gone, all these guys are leaving, and all of a sudden you look up at the end of it and you're like, this wasn't bad. And they were pretty good financially with these deals. Gerald McCoy, Dontari Poe, Clinton Dix, the corners that they brought in, the guys that they kept, Amari Cooper and obviously Dak on the franchise tag. So then you add in the draft. So I look at the Cowboys and I say they're still a team or the team to beat in the NFC East. I'll let Philly hold the team to beat because they won it last year. But I don't think there's any surprise that people would say it's the Eagles and the Cowboys and the other two teams in the division. And if you get in the tournament, as Parcells like to say, it's anybody's game. And you add a new coach with Mike McCarthy, a guy who has skins in the wall. This has been one of the better Cowboys off seasons in my view.
It's interesting. You mentioned Dak Prescott, and one of the reasons we wanted to have you on is because I know you've been locked in on that whole thing going on. Tell us right now, what's the current status as you know it with regards to the contract negotiations between the Cowboys and Dak's people?
The current status is that Dak is closer to an extension that Hellman is ever going to be to sign an extension with y'all for far greater money.
That part's true.
But there's really not a heck of a lot going on right now. And the longer that and that kind of surprises me. I thought after the draft, they would have gotten after this just because look where we are right now. We're all at home. We're not at an OTA and there's nothing going on the field. I thought that they might have been a little more proactive in trying to get this thing done before the July 15th deadline. But I think right now, if you had to ask me, this is getting down to what it was with Dez Bryant in 2015. It's going to come down to that 3 o'clock deadline on July 15th. Ultimately, I think he signs a contract, but there's really not been a lot of back and forth between these guys, honestly, since the end of March. And people will shake their head and say, well, why are the Cowboys doing it this way? Well, there's two sides on this thing, too, that people don't seem to want to acknowledge as to why a deal isn't done yet.
Todd, you wrote that article maybe last week, and what was one of the main reasons why you decided to do that? Did you maybe get new information, or were you just tired of hearing some of the noise that was, kind of the false narrative that was going on around this deal?
Yeah, mainly the false narrative stuff and just the everything that's been created, the drama around it. And I think some of it is a result of not having any sports on TV. There's no baseball. There's no basketball playoffs. There's no hockey playoffs. So, Dak and the Cowboys was always going to generate headlines, but now it's just kind of become sublime of Dak's awful, Dak's great, Dak can't throw a pass. He's one of the most accurate guys in the game. The Cowboys waited too long to sign him. The Cowboys want him to take less. All of these things, it just kind of got me to say, all right, enough already. What's out there that we know of that's true, and what do we know that's out there that's not true? And that's where the genesis of the idea came from, to kind of put everything into perspective.
I do have a question for you, Todd. It has nothing to do with Dak. I know that you have a good relationship with Jason Witten. Obviously, after we heard that he wasn't coming back to the Cowboys, we haven't necessarily gotten a chance to talk to him or hear much from him, his side of the story of kind of how things went down. I wanted to know if you have had any conversations with him and kind of get his side of things and how everything went with Mike McCarthy coming in and how those conversations went between both parties.
I've talked to him only a little bit. I think with this pandemic, he's really not been in town all that much, even if he's selling his nice house at the moment, but not moving to Vegas. He's just moving up the street, basically, from where he lives. But I think at the end of the year, the way he was talking to us, and you guys remember what he was like in the locker room, it seemed to think he would be on the coaching staff in some role in 2020. And then when Mike McCarthy came in, things kind of changed, and he thought about playing again. And I don't know if he was in Mike McCarthy's plans to want to continue down this road again and play another season. So that's, and you think of McCarthy, he's had guys like Donald Driver at the end of his time in Green Bay, Brett Favre, obviously in Green Bay as well. So he probably just said, you know what, not totally like what it was when Parcells and Emmett had their kind of deal back when Bill came in 2003, but similar to that. And Jason in his mind said, okay, well, I want to go play somewhere else, and let's see what it's like. And the Raiders became a viable option. And I know he's excited to work with John Gruden and see what that offense is like after being in basically the same system since 2007. But I'm surprised that he's not coaching on the Cowboys. I thought Jerry might have put his foot or put his hand up and say, no, Mike, he's going to be on your staff. But he didn't. And then, kudos for Jerry for not doing what everybody thinks he does and just bigfooting everybody in these situations.
All right, Pops, I got a two-parter for you. And obviously it's going to be about Dak because we've talked more about that over the last 3 years than anything. Number one, I agree with you. I think this is going to come down to July 15th. I don't see any reason why it would get done ahead of time at this point. If that is to happen, if Dak does get a deal before the deadline, which of the two sides is going to have to concede more to get it done? And then the other one, why is this in your opinion at least, over your years covering the team, why is this a consistent theme with the Cowboys that it is typically a deadline day sort of situation?
I don't, on the last part, I don't know if that's specific to the Cowboys necessarily, that deadlines make deals. There's a lot of people, a lot of teams that have that, but we're obviously more in tune with the Cowboys. Now, you can say, well, Carson Wentz got his deal done and Jared Goff then got his deal done. But I just view this as partially Dak betting on himself to the very end and arguably winning. I mean, he was staring last year on the season opener at $33 million a year and about $95 million guaranteed to him. And he said, no, I'm going to play on $2 million. Raise your hand if any of us would have done that. Heck no. But kudos to him, and he's done it. And now he's going to, look, what is the ultimate price that it's going to get up to? I mean, from what we've been told, it's $34.5 million a year, and his guarantee is upward on par with what Jared Goff got from the Rams, about $110 million. So did that buy him an extra couple, what would that be, 95, $15 million, over a deal? Maybe it has, but I think that the ultimate sticking point is going to be on the years of this thing. Is it 5? Is it 4? And who's going to cave? I mean, history tells you it's the Cowboys because they seem to cave a little bit on Zeke, seem to cave a little bit on DeMarcus Lawrence. But I go back to, if both sides want to get this deal done, just sit down and get it done. And I think Dak's greatest trait is awareness. I've told you guys that many times. And I think even if he were to take $35.1 million, and become the highest paid quarterback, there would be people that say, man, what a great guy. He took less to stay with the Cowboys. And that would earn him so much cred, because as soon as he signs his contract, he's no longer this fourth-round pick that everybody enjoyed. And what a great find. It's now, all right, man, you better win some Super Bowls. The same thing happened to Romo after he got his big deal in 2007.
You mentioned that the 4 or 5 years, it could net out one or the other. Tell the fans out there why that's so important. Why 4 years would presumably be so important to Dak, and why 5 years would be so important to the Cowboys? Because most fans probably look at it and say, okay, whatever, 4 or 5, it doesn't matter. But why is that so important to each to I guess, string this thing out to try to get the number of years that they want?
Yeah, well, on Dak's end of it is 4 years. The TV deals are all starting to come up. And if these things are going to be as pricey as we think they're going to be, although the pandemic might change the narrative a little bit maybe on what they could be, you want to get out in free agency as soon as possible. So a 4-year deal, sure. I mean, initially they were looking at 3, but they've come to 4. The Cowboys have been a 6-year deal, and they've come to 5. From the Cowboys' perspective, why you want 5 is helps with the salary cap in terms of lowering the number, especially in the first year, spreading out that bonus through the years. And you don't want to start going through this again after 2 years, right? If it's 4 years, we're going to say, when do they start looking at Dak again? When do they start looking at his contract? The more that you can push this thing out and have some certainty at the position that he's going to be there, that's why the Cowboys want 5, but Dak wants the 4. I don't want to even say Dak. His agent wants the 4 to have the ability to go out there and cash in again. I will say, we all remember Romo signed his deal in 2013. I think he was 33 or 4 years old. Well, Dak's only going to be, 31 at the end of a 5-year deal, 31, 32. The Cowboys are showing if you can play well, they're going to pay you regardless of how old you are.
Let's dive into that article. Nick mentioned that article a little earlier that you wrote, and I thought it was an interesting article. It was called Dispelling the Theories, and there were a number of theories that you kind of went through there, talking about different things that people are saying just out in the Twitter sphere where it can be a gutter at times. But, what some of the things that people are talking about as to, things around the Dak contract. So I'm going to throw a few of them out to you, and I want you to explain to me the basis for the theory and then your verdict on how you see it, whether it's important, whether it's true, how much it really factors in. Let's start with the first one. You said Dallas waited too long to try to sign Prescott.
I don't think that's true, because as soon as they were able to sign him after his 3rd year, they tried. They were in that offseason of 2019, the first time they could come at him, and they tried to get a deal done. And again, we got to September where Jerry kind of hinted we're close on this thing. Then we found out later that, okay, here were the numbers, and it seemed close at the time. So, as Stephen Jones likes to say, 2 sides, you can only make a deal when both sides want to make a deal. I think the Cowboys thought they were getting to that point last September, but they didn't. So the fact that the Cowboys waited too long when they made him an offer that was greater than Wentz in average per year, and you can argue that their guarantee is greater than what Wentz and Goff got based on the money those guys are already guaranteed as the top 2 picks, that they put a fair offer on the table. I think they've been fair. Maybe they could have started a little higher to get the process rolling a little bit, but you can't say they waited too long when they made him an offer that would have made him the 4th highest paid quarterback in the game.
The second one, Cowboys want Prescott to settle for less.
That one kind of, again, the numbers we threw around a second ago, $34.5 million. That's the number 2 quarterback in the league. Russell Wilson makes 35, $110 million guaranteed, makes him the highest, tied for the highest with Goff. So if they want him to settle for less, they're not doing a good job of actually having him settle for less. When you've offered the number 1 in terms of average, or number 2 in average per year, and number 1 in potential guarantee. So now we don't know the structures of all these things and the payouts and deferrals and when the money becomes fully guaranteed and all that stuff. So I'm sure there's other things that we don't know, but just on the face of it, when you've offered the guy who's won 1 playoff game that kind of contract, you're not asking him to take less. You're just not asking him, don't take everything.
All right, and the final one, Prescott should realize how much he makes off the field.
And he does, but that's not his fault. And the Cowboys shouldn't use that, in my view, as a way to get him to settle for less. And I'm not one of these guys to say, well, the Cowboys need to make up for it because he was a 4th round pick. Well, no, Dak should have played better at Mississippi State, and then he wouldn't have been a 4th-round pick. So, I mean, I don't want to become across as like total team guy here and saying this is what Dak should have done. But I don't think the Cowboys can look and say, look, man, you're making all this money from Oikos and Frito-Lay and Sleep Number and Adidas and all this stuff. You're still set, and you're getting this because you come from the Cowboys. If you're in Buffalo, you're not going to get these deals. That's not Dak's fault. It's a little bit like the DeMarcus Lawrence answer about it's not his job to worry about how to make this work in the cap. That's Stephen Jones' job. Same kind of thing with Dak and this thing. I don't think the Cowboys can really use that necessarily to say this is an instance where, you should take less because you make more off the field.
So here's the final big question for you, Todd, before we let you go. Does this still get done before July 15th? And if not, do you think both sides are okay with the idea of letting Dak play this year on the tag?
So this is where I'm going to play both sides of it right now and not give you a really good answer. Right now at 11:15 on what's today, the 27th, I say he plays on the tag. Now, if we get to July 14th, I might be thinking something differently because there's just not been this movement. And what's going to change between now and July 14th, 15th that is going to swing this thing? Unless Dak comes in and says, I want X and I want Y. And then the Cowboys will figure that out. That's what they've done with DeMarcus and Zach Martin and all these guys. But that's not been the case yet with Dak. So playing the year on the tag, if he plays the year on the tag, I wrote this when they played the Vikings. If they go this route, you're basically starting the divorce process with the quarterback. Kirk Cousins is the most recent example of that. He was tagged. Now, Washington never loved him the way the Cowboys love him. But you're starting that process of it's getting unruly, the cap number in that 3rd year, which will be $54 million, to be in a situation where you can continue down this road. So that's the worry the Cowboys have that, all right, hey, Dak played for $2 million last year. Why wouldn't he play for 31 this year? And now, okay, it'll be 38 next year to tag him again. Dak has to play well to earn that. So there are arguments on both sides why the tag is good and why the tag is bad. And they have until July 15th to figure it out. Unfortunately, I think they'll wait till July 12th to start it.
That's typically the way things are done. Deadlines do make deals around here for some reason. All right, we appreciate you joining us, Todd. We appreciate you taking some time with us. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to dive into a little more conversation around Dak Prescott. We'll be right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
Right above the subway!
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus!
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store to find out how to get one of our popular smartphones for $0 down. Based on GWS One score September 2019.
Do you want the most interesting, up-to-the-minute Dallas Cowboys news straight from the Star in Frisco? How about exclusive and on command? That's right, news and nuggets you can't find anywhere else. With our exclusive Cowboys content on Alexa, you can have all the answers, secrets, stories, and more. What's Stephen Jones thinking during a game? What's Joe Looney's favorite pregame meal? We take your questions to Cowboys players and coaches, and you can hear the answers directly back to you. Just say, Alexa, open Dallas Cowboys.
Whether you're into being a part of this or more into something like this, SeatGeek has the tickets to the events you love. It's the easiest way to find, buy, and sell tickets. Plus, with their Deal Score technology, they'll recommend the best seats in the house at the best value. So the next time you're craving this...
Hey! Blue 20!
Download the SeatGeek app and let's go. SeatGeek.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again for Tailgating with the OtterBox Boys.
OtterBox, the company that builds wildly overprotective phone cases?
The one and only. But cases are just the start. OtterBox is the official outfitter of tailgating.
If they can keep my phone safe, what can they do for my parking lot party?
How about protecting your beverages from suboptimal drinking temperatures with their elevation tumblers? And OtterBox elevation tumblers come in 3 sizes, a 10-ouncer, a 20-ouncer, and even a 64-ounce growler.
Check out all the colors and sizes of their elevation tumblers at otterbox.com.
Back to the break.
Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're talking Cowboys football. Just finished the interview with Todd Archer of ESPN. Got our normal crew, Nick, Amber, and Dave. He talked a lot about Dak, and I want to get into this conversation with you guys. We'll get into some of those rumors that are out there and kind of how you guys feel about those. But before we do, first question I have for you guys is, what is the best thing that Dak does? Let's start with you, Dave.
The best thing Dak, right off the bat, and it sounds, I don't know, maybe counterintuitive. His intangibles to me are probably the absolute best thing that he does, whether you talk about him being a rallying point, a natural leader, a charismatic, and, very influential member of that locker room, how that translates to the field. He's unflappable. He's very poised, calm, delivers in clutch moments. Spare me the commentary about his record against winning teams last year. I know that doesn't change the fact that he is a very poised and clutch quarterback. You can go back to the playoff game against the Seahawks.
The Packers.
And it's not the guy's obviously got great on-field ability, but that's probably the starting point with me is he's got the intangibles of a franchise quarterback.
Amber.
Honestly, there's not much more that I can add to that. I agree with everything that Dave said. Also the respect that he gets from his teammates. I have not heard anyone in the locker room ever speak bad about him or say anything negative or blame anything on him. So I think that goes a long way. One of the things that I have trouble with is, yes, he's one of those guys that reacts well under pressure, but at the same time, a lot of those times, it's too late. It happens too late in the game, and then you're left going home without a win. So he has a lot of great things. I do think he has a lot of potential and can eventually give you everything that the fans are asking for as far as winning games, but only time will tell as far as that. But as far as in general ability, I do think he has everything to become that kind of quarterback in the future.
Nick?
I think the thing that he does the best is just, like they said, the intangibles, figuring out things in the middle of the play, knowing when to run, knowing how to use his strength. He's not the most polished quarterback in terms of mechanics, but he figures out a way to get it done when the lights come on. Now, I think you can argue all day about how clutch he is and where that poise comes through in the fourth quarter. I don't think last year was a good example of that, but he's a guy. At the bottom line, do you want him on your team at the end of the game or not? And I think the Cowboys do. I think most Cowboys fans would say that they do. Last year just wasn't a great year for that, but that doesn't mean that he's not good enough to get the job done.
What's the area that he needs to improve most? Let's start with you, Amber.
One of the things that bothers me, and I don't know how to argue this very well because it can be applied to a lot of other quarterbacks around the leagues, but there are certain quarterbacks that it would not apply. This wouldn't apply to that. But Dak, to me, he's the kind of quarterback that needs guys around him in order to make things happen. For example, we've seen how Aaron Rodgers, I don't want to compare him to Aaron Rodgers or anything, but Aaron Rodgers can make guys look good. He can put the ball where it needs to go. Dak needs guys that can actually be there to catch the ball. I think there are too many elements that need to be working for Dak in order for the game to go his way. And that's one of the things that I really don't know. If he had that kind of offensive line that he does, if he didn't have Zeke and everybody else around there, we saw the trouble that he had when the Cowboys had a committee wide receiver group, and things weren't necessarily clicking. I think that he wouldn't be as successful as he has been in those games that we've seen him. But in general, that's one of the things that raises questions for me is how many people does he actually need in order for him to be successful in the game?
Biggest area he needs to improve?
Accuracy. He just down the field accuracy accuracy, and I don't think you can come back and throw out stats about completion percentage. We know a lot of these are shorter passes. That a lot of quarterbacks have. But I just think it's just there's some throws down the field that he could be better on the intermediate throws and stuff like that. That's something that all quarterbacks can improve on, and including Dak as well. I mean, you mentioned Aaron Rodgers. Nobody's like Aaron Rodgers when it comes to that kind of accuracy, but I think he can get better than some of the other quarterbacks that that are really accurate. He needs to kind of get on their level as well.
I will say on that note, last year it seemed to me at least that he and Gallup had a connection downfield that seemed to be improved over the year before that. So hopefully that signs that he's getting better in that area. I agree with you. He probably needs to get even better than that. Dave, where do you think is the biggest area he needs to improve?
I agree with Nick, but differently. I mean, it was last week. NFL.com came out and said, the guy, based on advanced metrics, the guy is the most accurate deep ball passer in the league. And I'm not worried about that. The thing I look at, Dak's got to make the routine look better. I think about, the Saints game. They lose 12-10. He misses Randall Cobb in the end zone in the first quarter on a ball that could have been a touchdown, pretty routine, like 15, 18-yard throw. Fourth quarter, misses Cobb again on a crossing route that's behind him. Cobb absolutely should have caught the ball, but it still wasn't in front of him. It wasn't as well placed as it could have been. He's much more accurate than he gets credit for, but that can be the difference between winning and losing is that placement. And I do feel like, sometimes those routine passes aren't as easily catchable as they should be. That doesn't mean his receivers should drop them, but he could help his receivers out a little bit more. I feel like that's been a thing for him for most of his career. He just needs to be more consistent with just the obvious easy plays.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it seems to me like in a lot of those instances, it goes game by game. There's some games I walk away from and I'm like, man, Dak really did play that well. There's some quarters I walk away from like, man, Dak didn't have a great quarter. And then there are other ones where he's just on fire and hitting all of his targets where he needs to hit them. So I agree with you. Consistency is probably more the issue. It's not that he can't do it. It's that can he do it consistently enough, right?
Yeah, he can definitely do it. There's loads of evidence that he can, but right, it's just, you got to do it on 3rd and 5 in the 4th the same way that you do it in the 1st.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of these theories that are out there. And you guys know you're on Twitter. You see all the different stuff that people are talking about right now with regards to Dak Prescott. I'm going to throw out a theory, and then I want each of you guys to tell me whether you agree or disagree with it and why. First theory was that Dallas waited too long to sign Dak Prescott. Let's start with Dave.
Oh, I go back and forth about this a lot because I agree with what Todd said in the first segment. Like, it takes two to tango. And if Dak and his people just aren't willing to play ball, then there's only so much that the Cowboys can do. And Todd did a great job of not really answering the second part of my question, which is like, at the same time, the Eagles managed to get this done way ahead of any kind of deadline. The Rams did it with Goff. The Seahawks did it with Russ, well before his deal expired. I know, Russ kind of put a deadline on OTAs, but he didn't threaten to hold out or anything like that. They still managed to get a deal done. I feel like the vast majority of quarterback contracts come in pretty far ahead of schedule. And it hasn't been the case with the Cowboys. I'm not saying that they need to just offer him the world and make him the first $40 million quarterback, but nobody else seems to have the same kind of problem with this. So, I'm not trying to fault the Cowboys too much, but it is curious to me that they're the one team that can't get this done ahead of time.
Don't you have to note, at least from that standpoint, that in those instances, the Cowboys offered a deal that was very comparable to what Wentz ended up signing, very comparable to what Goff ended up signing, probably a little better in some respects, according to some of the reports. So, I mean, what else can they do other than kind of offer a deal that seems to be on par with his peers?
I wonder if it's because Goff and Wentz were first-round picks, and so they already had some guaranteed money in the bank, which that seems counterintuitive because you would think Dak would jump at a deal because he doesn't have any of that type of money. But maybe the fact that he's looking for his first big payday, him and his agents want to make sure it's as good as possible. I don't know, but it's kind of frustrating that these other teams haven't had this issue.
What do you think about that idea that Dallas waited too long to sign Dak?
I don't think so. I agree with what you guys said and what Todd had said. I mean, they did, offer a deal, and Dak decided that he wanted to play on the $2 million. And I'm sitting here looking at the math, and I just don't understand that. I don't understand why he would want to do that. I'm looking at a deal. If he did, instead of $35 a year, if he did $40 million a year, he would have taken that, obviously. There's been a lot of rumors on that. That would have been a 5-year deal. 40, that's $200 million. At 35, that's $175 million. I still don't understand why you would why you would play for $2 million. I don't get that, and how you're going to make up that money. You're never going to make up that money. Even if you did a $40 million deal, you wouldn't make up that money. So I don't understand his line of thinking there. I personally think he's getting bad advice. No, I don't think the Cowboys waited too long. I think they're sticking to their guns on what they believe he's worth.
Amber?
I think it's a little bit of both, and honestly, maybe my memory is completely serving me wrong here, but I feel like many times during training camp that we would be talking to Stephen Jones and talk about these Dak negotiations. Many times I feel like I would hear, oh, well, we haven't really talked yet. And I remember, again, please correct me if I'm completely wrong, but I remember every time I would hear that, I'm like, what are you waiting for? Like, you can easily talk. I don't know exactly how long it takes for these kind of conversations or the process of getting these conversations started, but I feel like maybe in those instances, I would have liked to hear a different answer. Maybe it's like, okay, yes, we started talking, but nothing has come from it yet, or something like that. That would make me feel like, yes, the Cowboys did start early on and did not drag this out and wait too long. I do get that it takes both sides, but from what I remember, I feel like maybe the Cowboys could have started a little earlier.
The one thing I will say, and this I think is just kind of a typical negotiating tactic, is when you got two parties that have already kind of given their initial ideas on what they think the contract should be or what they think the deal should be, it's almost a stalemate from the standpoint that the person that initiates contact first after that is the one that's more motivated to negotiate a little bit more, to give a little bit more. And you put yourself in a little worse negotiating position, right? That's a typical thing that happens in negotiations. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Cowboys always say, deadlines make deals, is because in a lot of instances, once you get close to a deadline, then that kind of goes out the window for both parties. They're like, look, the deadline's tomorrow. Let's just see if there's something we can figure out. And you don't really give up any of that negotiating leverage by doing that. And so I think in a lot of instances, the Cowboys are just trying to maintain as much leverage as they can in the negotiation. So is the other side. And so there really isn't any discussion. They get to this stalemate and then nothing happens. They just sit there and both sides wait until one or the other decides they want to reinitiate contact and start negotiating harder. So I still think at the end of the day, they probably started at the right time. They didn't have the offer that Dak and his people wanted. And that's one of the reasons why they're still, in this situation. Let's go to the next theory. They said Cowboys want Prescott to settle for less. Let's start with you, Nick. Do you agree with that or disagree?
No, I don't think they want him to settle for less. I don't understand what that means. Less than what? Less than? I mean, they don't think he should be the highest paid quarterback in the league. Neither do I. So I don't think they should settle for less. I think what they're offering him is pretty fair. It sounds like they're offering him top 5 money, maybe number 2 overall. Why would that be less? If that's what you're asking, are you asking about the off the field stuff, or are you saying that they want him to settle for? No,
this is just,
I don't think they want him to settle for less.
The amount of the contract, and I guess even in this instance, you can factor in the number of years. If they're asking him to go to 5 years, where he's asking for 4 years, knowing that the amount of money that quarterbacks may make in that 5th year, if TV contracts end up being what some expect them to be, then he may be giving up a substantial amount of money in that 5th year of his deal.
Like I said before, he's fine giving up money. He's already given up a lot of money last year. He's trying to bet on himself. I don't think I really don't. I don't think the Cowboys are asking him to settle for less. It's weird how they pay quarterbacks. If you rank all the quarterbacks in the league, just based off of ability, even on this show, I don't think is he in the top 10?
I think so. I think
yes.
so.
He's at the back, though. He's 8, 9, 10. I mean, quarterbacks you would want on your football team, I think he's 6, 7, 8, 9. He's in that range. But they're offering him number 2 money. So, no, I don't think they're asking him for less.
Okay. Amber?
No, I think they're just asking for a fair price. I think that the Cowboys, they're not trying to be like, oh, we're the upper hand here and we are the Cowboys. That's initially maybe how I started seeing things a little bit, because when you talk about all these sponsorships that come along just from being part of the Dallas Cowboys, yeah, that plays into the whole thing. But like Todd was saying earlier, you can't really use that as leverage because you can't guarantee that kind of money either. But I think the Cowboys are just asking for him to settle for something that's fair, and I get on both sides, like from going completely angry to them being calm, because on one hand, I'm like, you know what? If you think you're this kind of quarterback, then freaking go play somewhere else and show it over there with some other people with that kind of money of somebody that's willing to pay all that money for you. But then, I don't know. I just think that I'm on the Cowboy side on this one right now. Dak should get his money, but he needs to like chill out a little bit and be fair. Just be fair.
Let me just be clear. I am not in agreement with you that you let him go and play somewhere else. I am not ready to go back to try.
That's when I get angry, and then I go back to calming down.
No. They got a quarterback. Do not let him walk. You need to figure this out, because I'm not wanting to go back to the days of looking for a quarterback. Dave, what are your thoughts on this?
By the very nature of the conversation, they are asking him to take less money. That is what's happening. And I'm not here to convince you that he's worth it. Your opinion doesn't matter to me. We're all going to have different ones, and that's fine. But they're asking him to take less money because this is how quarterbacks markets work. Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo all got paid at the top of the market. All had done significantly less than Dak Prescott when they got that money. Jimmy Garoppolo got it off the strength of 8 starts. They're asking him to take less money. Quarterbacks set the market when they get paid. That's what's happened for a decade, actually more than a decade. And if they don't want to pay it, that's fine. If they don't want to do that, that's their prerogative. I think it'll look like a bargain in 18 months. I don't understand the quibbling over $2 million per year. If he wants 35, frickin' give him 35, because it'll be 42 when Mahomes gets his money in 6 months anyway. So, again, not trying to convince anybody he's worth it, but they are asking him to take less. That's exactly what they're doing.
But if you're the Cowboys...
Sorry, I was just going to say, if the Cowboys trust him so much and they want him to be the quarterback of the future so badly, then why not just freaking pay him then? And just okay.
Question.
Because of what Dave said, though, those teams messed up. Like, why should you just say, all right, well, the Raiders pay Derek Carr? Bad move, because he wasn't worth it. Garoppolo, we'll see. We'll see if that's worth it or not. I mean, I know they went to the Super Bowl. And who's the other guy you mentioned? Kirk Cousins. I mean, these guys. Why should the Cowboys follow their lead? I mean, I don't think you have to do that just because other teams, just because that's the quarterback market. I mean, I don't think they're asking him to take less. I really don't. I think they're asking him to take. He's been a pretty good quarterback, but they're going to pay him like he's one of the elite quarterbacks. He's not elite yet. He hasn't proven.
I mean, the Vikings they made the playoffs and won a game last year, and they were in contention the year before that. They have an absolutely loaded roster, regardless of Cousins' money. Like, Cousins' deal didn't stop him from signing Thielen, Diggs. I know they traded him, but they gave him money first. They got Danielle Hunter making money on the other side of the ball. They got Harrison Smith. They got all these great players, and they're still paying Cousins. I know, the Niners kind of caught lightning in a bottle because they got such a good draft class because Garoppolo got hurt, but his money's still not getting in the way of them having an absolutely loaded roster. I don't think they made a mistake at all. I mean, if Garoppolo hits a deep ball in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl after the golden boy Pat Mahomes throws an interception, then we're talking about how the Niners are this amazing team that won a Super Bowl, Jimmy G. I definitely don't think they messed up by signing him.
So basically what you're saying is you just think the Cowboys should pay Dak higher than Russell Wilson right now because it's his turn and he should be the number one quarterback in the league, right? I mean, that's what they should do because that's what Stafford was number one at one point.
If that's what it takes to get it done, hell yeah. Again,
well, I will say this.
It ain't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
These are not like these are finite numbers. Dak will be 6th in salary by the 2021 season, and I know COVID-19 kind of throws a wrench into some of these plans, but Todd was absolutely right in the first segment. They're going to negotiate these TV deals in the next year, and they're going to start hitting in the next 2-3 years, and the money's going to absolutely roll in. So I just don't think this is going to hurt the Cowboys' cap the way that some people think it would.
I will say this. I do think it's one or the other. If you're not willing to if you want to go Nick's route and say, no, we're not going to set the market with our quarterback, and your quarterback is hardcore that he wants to get that kind of deal, then eventually you're going to lose him. Because as Todd said, if you let him play on the tag this year, you may be starting the wheels in motion of the divorce from your quarterback, because by next year, that tag number is 38. And by the year after that, it's in the 50s and it's not worth doing anymore, right? So you're in a situation where if your quarterback keeps playing hardball on that, then you find yourself in a Kirk Cousins situation. And so if you're going to play hardball back and say, we're not going to set the market with you, then what's going to eventually happen is you're going to be back in the market of trying to find a quarterback. So how important is it to you to not set the market? That's, I guess, the biggest issue. Because if you think this guy's a quarterback of the future for your team, you think he's good enough to get you to the promised land, are you willing to go back to the well and try to find another guy that you think is equally good or better?
Throw this out there, too. Is there a scenario where Dak plays on the tag and is cheap in 2021? Because we're talking about potentially paying him to set the market after an 8-8 season. So they would have to be like, I mean, they would have to be substantially terrible for him to have a lower asking price next year. I mean, you know, the roster looks good. I'm not saying they might not even make the playoffs, but I would be shocked if they're so bad that his asking price just comes way down. I don't think I buy that at all. Romo got his deal back in 2013 after 2 straight 8-8 seasons. So I don't think the price goes down no matter what. So you might as well just eat it now, in my opinion.
All right, let's get to the third and final theory here. Nick, did you have something right there?
No, go ahead.
Okay, third and final theory. Prescott should realize how much he makes off the field. Nick, let's start with you.
I do, and I think he does. I think he does realize it. Like we said before, the 30, to not play last year on, to take a deal in the 30, 33 range and to play on $2 million. Yeah, I think he does.
Should that factor into his asking price?
It should not factor into his asking price. But if I'm the Cowboys, I know that, and so this is the deal. This is. I think the Cowboys can use it as their own negotiation to say, we can stand firm on this. You're making a lot more money here. So if you want to go and get $40 million a year to play for another team, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you won't make more money. So I think if I'm the Cowboys, I would definitely use it as my negotiation. I definitely would, for sure.
Amber.
I don't know if his agent and him have done this already or not, but if it was me, I would literally sit down, put the numbers of, okay, this is what the offer is that they're giving you. Is it fair? Number one, because at the same time, I don't care how much money you're making from sponsors. At the end of the day, you need to feel like you're getting paid a fair price for what you're doing. But now on top of that, what's the amount that you're making from sponsorships? What are the estimate? When you add these two together, looking at that, is it and thinking, okay, can you even top the total amount of money if you were playing for another team, and take that into consideration. I'm not saying that the Cowboys should use that as leverage, but more from Dak's party, they should be smart enough to analyze that whole thing, add up the numbers, and figure out, like, okay, maybe we do settle here. Maybe we play for this price, be fair, but then at the same time, we're well aware of all the other money that's coming in from other sides. So I think that that definitely plays a role into the whole thing.
I don't have a great answer to this. I can see both sides of it. I mean, obviously it's good to be the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It pays a lot of money, a lot of visibility. And if I were Dak, I would definitely have that in the back of my mind. Like, do I really want to go somewhere else and not be the most visible quarterback in the sport? But at the same time, the guys, every time an NFL game goes to commercials, you're inundated with State Farm insurance commercials with Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. Those guys play in Kansas City and Green Bay, which are probably the two smallest markets in the NFL. Point being,
but they have to
in
win
this day and
championships.
age,
But they have to win championships to get them.
No, they had to be good. Mahomes won the MVP. He started getting all that. No, he won the MVP and started getting all that before he won the Super Bowl.
You have to be the best quarterback in the league to get that.
Well, but Dak turned down a long-term deal and bet on himself. Like, Dak believes that he can pull that off. A quarterback probably does. Those are hyper-competitive.
I think that's all great, but I think I want to be clear about that, though. I think the difference here is Dak has all of these different endorsements, and he's won, one playoff game? Those guys had to be MVP of the league and or win championships to get that level of notoriety.
You have to be very good to pull it off outside of the Cowboys market. Agreed. I'm just saying you can do it. So I think Dak would be smart to keep that in the back of his mind, but I wouldn't settle for less because I have all of that on the table, basically.
I guess the way I look at it is I do think it has to be factored in. I agree with Amber. I think it has to be factored in on both sides because I do think for the quarterback, he's got to look at it and say, okay, I can take $40 million flat rate from another team that may be willing to pay me that if I get to that point in my career where I can make that decision. But on the flip side of that, if I'm passing up a $35 million year deal with the Cowboys, and as a part of the Cowboys, I'm going to get an extra $10 million a year in endorsements, that's going to put me at 45. And being in, I'm just going to throw out Cleveland, let's say, I'm only going to make that 40. I ain't making an extra penny for endorsements. Now I'm looking at it as Dak and I'm saying, maybe this is a great deal at 35, knowing I can get that extra 10 in endorsements that I can't get necessarily in these other places.
Yeah, but wasn't Cleveland's quarterback with a grand total of 0 playoff wins all over the commercials for the NFL last year? I think it was progressive, like he was in every single one.
A lot of that had to do with the fact that he was also a Heisman Trophy winner that had a high profile coming into the NFL. That matters as well, right? Dak doesn't have that resume.
I think it just comes down to kind of what she just said, and what you're saying is that it's about Dak and his team figuring that out. Just like if any of us were looking at a job, the offer is what it is. Then you have to factor in the other things that you know about, and at the end of the day, add it all up, because if you're going to leave all that on the table, and you guys are right. I mean, small market quarterbacks can, you can be marketable. I mean, I think if his name was John Prescott, I don't think it would be the same as it's Dak. It's just easy to say. It's easy. He's got a marketable face. He's just he's got
everything. John, no. Dak, yes.
Yeah, I mean, if Patrick Mahomes shaved his head when he first got into the league, he may not have as many deals. He wouldn't have as many deals. He wouldn't have that head and shoulders with Palomalu. So I'm just saying it's about market, and I think Dak would go to another place. And because think about it, in all of sports, every sport, you just say Dak, you know who you're talking about. I mean, that says something. It's like Shaq. It's like Kobe. You got to be really good if your name is Michael and you're the best. I mean, and he is. But I'm just saying, I just think you guys can, he can get it done. He can go to another place and make more money, but I think he's got to factor in everything and I think he does factor it in. He knows what he's making.
Yeah, I'll end the conversation, Nick, with something that you told me yesterday when we were talking on the phone about this. You mentioned the fact that do you factor in whether it's there's a state income tax wherever you're playing? And certainly you do, because that's going to affect the amount of money you bring home. So in the same way you would factor that in, you would factor this in, because it's additional revenue that you can generate based upon your performance and based upon your job. So, yeah, I think it certainly should be factored in. I don't know that it changes at the end of the day, kind of what the Cowboys offer. I do think it should affect what Dak is willing to accept, knowing what his opportunities are to make money outside of just his job as he's making this decision.
Does this kind of agent, I don't know, I know there are different agents that do different things, but does the agent that deals with his contract also deals with contracts coming from sponsors?
I assume that's different for every player, but a lot of the players are with agencies. So there's an agent that's primarily responsible for this, and there may be another part of that agency that also takes care of their sponsorship. So yes, the agency typically is involved in all of that. It may not be the same person negotiating all those.
It makes me wonder. I'm like, okay, is this agent kind of more focused on what percentage he's getting out of this kind of contract versus sponsorship contracts? Because I know there are different agents out there. So I don't know. It's just another thing to kind of maybe wonder about.
Dave, were you going to say something on that?
I mean, he's got 5 people. I've met a couple of them over the years. I don't think Todd France guy that would negotiate that, but I'm also not sure. So, it's a good point.
And it definitely is a good point, because you're right. Individuals kind of work looking out for themselves as well. So it may be a situation where an agent is thinking about their own percentage versus what it means for Dak overall.
And also, I'll say this about the actual contract. I mean, Dave mentioned some of these other deals in the past, the Stafford, Cousins, Garoppolo. Whatever happens here with Dak, like this contract is going to be used by other agents, by other teams, this offseason, next offseason, 2 or 3 down the road. So, like, it's very important in the I guess the fraternity of agents. They got to make sure that this deal is on par too for the next guy and keep it going and not not get a bargain deal.
Yeah. All right, let's take our final break. When we come back, we'll have a couple questions Amber got from you fans out there. We'll do that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Whether you're into being a part of this or more into something like this, SeatGeek has the tickets to the events you love. It's the easiest way to find, buy, and sell tickets. Plus, with their Deal Score technology, they'll recommend the best seats in the house at the best value. So the next time you're craving this,
Ready? Blue 20.
download the SeatGeek app and let's go. SeatGeek.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
Right above the subway!
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus.
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store to find out how to get one of our popular smartphones for $0 down, based on GWS 1 score September 2019.
Back to the break.
We are live and here in the final segment of the break, live from the virtual SWBC Mortgage Studio. And Amber, this final segment, we're going to have a couple questions from you, from our fans through you. So what you got?
Between the two new coordinators joining the staff, which side of the football are you most excited to see change and improvement, significantly elevate the performance of this expectations in 2020? Anybody?
Sorry, I'm not. I mean, the offense is the most exciting part because you got Lamb and you got McCarthy, and Dak is supposed to take a jump. Blah blah blah. Like the team's going to go as far as the offense, but I'm way more intrigued by the defense because of the expertise that Mike Nolan has, because of the intriguing new parts that they have, and the fact that defense was such a weak spot last year. So, yeah, defense, just because it's so much more new.
I'm actually going to change up the question a little bit and say special teams. I'm way more intrigued about what the new special teams coordinator is going to be able to provide, because I think it was an area of problems for them last year, and I think they went out and got what a lot of people believe is one of, if not the best special teams coordinator in the league. So I'm really interested to see how he changes what they're doing on special teams because of the level of experience that he has and the level of expertise that he has. That's where I'm most intrigued to see. I'll
just say offense, because I do think that their offense needs to be better. Against the really good defenses. I mean, yeah, when they scored 30 points or more, they won every game. But they didn't always score 30 points or more. They didn't always get there. And I think that they had some challenges when they faced teams that were more aggressive than they were, bigger and stronger. And so they're going to have to be able to figure those things out too. So I'll say offense is what I'm intrigued about, because like Dave said, that's where all the weapons are. That's what's really going to have to carry this team. I still think they can be a little bit better and more consistent through the year.
Well, let's talk about the defense a little more. And obviously there are a lot of things that we don't know just yet. But in your opinion, who will be the most impactful player in the whole defense outside of DeMarcus Lawrence as far as talent?
I really hope it's Smith, just because of what an awesome, well, first of all, it would be an incredible story. I mean, for a guy to have that much go wrong and disappear from the game for that long and come back and make an impact, not only would it be a cool story, as a reporter or fan, but it would mean really good things for this defense, hopefully, if you have a guy like that that can get sacks and make life easier on DeMarcus.
Jaylon Smith, I think he's the most important guy. Not only does he play right there, not in the middle linebacker spot, but he plays linebacker where he's around the ball a lot. And when he's playing well and they can get him to play at a high level, then I think he can be really good for this team. But if they can't figure out how to make him a really consistent, productive player, well, then he could be a weak spot. So I think that, it's going to be very, very important to figure out the best way to make Jaylon Smith an impact player, a positive impact player.
I would go with Leighton Vander Esch, his mate there at linebacker. I look at what Leighton was doing 2 years ago before the injury last year. He was playing outstanding football, and he was one of those players that made plays where there wasn't necessarily a play there. He would do things that could kind of change games. He would do things that would give the Cowboys, kind of that boost at certain points in games that they needed, that critical play, right? I think he's going to be the guy if he's healthy, and I'm assuming he is. I'm going to trust everybody's word, his and the organization's word, until I see different, that he's healthy and ready to go. And if that's the case, I think he's going to be one of the best players on this defense. I think he'll be one of the biggest playmakers. He'll be one of the guys we're talking about after games that made plays that changed the game.
I hope you're right. And it's not one of those, usually not, but I hope it is not one of those reoccurring things, because we know he's been dealing with it ever since college. So hopefully it's nothing that will keep him out of the game for, or something that will keep him dealing with neck problems all throughout the rest of his career. But
Nick problems or neck problems?
Say Nick problems.
Did you say Nick problems?
both, I guess. It could
Right.
be a problem. That's a problem too, but all right.
That's
it,
a good
Derek.
question I think we're going to have time for. We went
Yeah.
long on that conversation around Dak, which was really good, though. I appreciate you guys taking some time to do that. And we appreciate you guys joining us today. We'll be back next week at our normal time, 11 a.m. Central. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Amber Garcia, Dave Hellman, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?